Good evening to you all. My name is Emmanuel Odeke. Welcome to this episode of Let's Talk. And you can be sure that it is a good year and the Lord is doing us great. I should say Happy New Year to all of you. And we are still back to the studios of Church of Uganda Family TVs where we enrich lives. And so today we'll be looking at parenting teenagers. They have been home for quite a while, but then we still have about a month plus with them in our houses. So today we'll be discussing parenting teenagers. And so with me in the studio is Pamela Babirukamu. Pamela, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Pamela is an author, and she's written a book which has a very interesting title. It is called Beaten But Not Crushed. And that book has won excuse me. It has won an award this year, and in the past. It has won an award, and it has done us good. You need to look out for it. Beaten but not crushed. And then also she's part of the co-founders of Evolving Women, something that brings women together to live to their full potential. And so you want to be sure that the person with us in the studio today is good enough to bring sensible knowledge to you today. Would you say hello to our viewers before we get into our discussion?
Hello, viewers. Good evening and Happy New Year to everybody.
Maybe if you'd like to say more about yourself so that I don't want to leave out any bit, that would be very good. That is a rare opportunity.
Maybe I'll just add what's most important is I'm a single mother of 3 girls.
Wow.
And so that's where I'm drawing some of the experience that I get to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's a mother of 3. That is very interesting. They also do organize camps for young girls from the age of 11 to 17. So that normally happens during holidays. So you need to just look out for Evolving Women and you'll get her. You'll definitely get her. So that is a bit. But today we'll be looking at parenting teenagers. The firstborn is how old?
She's 14.
14.
Yes.
And then the last so far?
Is 7.
7. All right. So looking at parenting teenagers, could you share with us your experience with the 3 so far?
I would say that I have 2 teenagers. One is 11, but she's really in transition from being a child to being a teenager, and it's not an easy job. My experience so far has been exciting. It's got its good times. It's got its really, really challenging times. And I must say that parenting is one of those roles that God gives you, but you really have to know that you need to be guided by the Holy Spirit to do that job. Because you can either break the child or you can really build them up, or you can pamper them and spoil them. You need a lot of wisdom. So what has it been like for me? I think that it's first important for us to know as parents that we are stewards and not owners. So when you get to know that you're a steward of a child and your job is to steward their souls and help them to be able to come out to be, important human beings that are all rounded. We're not talking about, spiritual, train them spiritually and then they're lacking in other areas. Train them in terms of hard work and they're lacking in other areas. They must be all rounded. And therefore, raising teenagers requires a lot of wisdom and a lot of time. You must set time aside. The way we schedule ourselves and schedule our lives, you must schedule for a teenager, because teenagers oftentimes you need to take them away in a time where you're just the 2 of you, away from the rest of the siblings, just to talk out certain issues, especially about growing up and critical issues that you would really need to discuss with them. Yeah, I would say that a good steward of children would be one that was really, really is authentic. You really have got to be authentic. You've got to steward from a point of knowledge, from sharing your experiences, and not hiding anything from the children. Yeah.
Now, looking at that bit, some of these young people, it's not easy to get them to doing house chores. How have you helped these people get to that? Surprisingly, some of them don't know how to do dishes. They don't know how to do their own clothing and their own laundry and stuff like that. And now the washing machines are just messing us up. And some cannot literally even do peel matoke. How do we help these young people to get to that point where they can do house chores and help their parents, more so when they're in holidays and stuff like that?
So what I did is, for example, I sent away my maid the day that the children came back from school. And so we agreed that during the holiday, we're just going to keep the core family of 4 and that we are going to do everything by ourselves. So the first thing is to have a genuine meeting where you say that in every community, there have got to be chores, they've got to be responsibilities. But they've also got to be repercussions that come with the different rights that they speak up for. Yeah, so you've got to raise them knowing that in every community, while mom goes to work or dad and mom go to work, you stay behind to also contribute towards the family. And how do you do it? So it's not a punishment. And I think parents should bring it out, the best way they can so that the children can love it. So for us, it's community work, and we have a rota. Yeah, so I would think that it's important for kids to be structured. First, to also know that as much as they're on holiday, they need to also rest, because school, like my kids are in boarding school, so school is really tough. Yeah, it's scheduled, it's structured, but it's very hectic for them because they read a lot. And so I would think that it'd be nice to have some sort of structure. And so a home rota is really in order. A home rota is in order. So when we wake up in the morning, I will not blame so-and-so for so-and-so's work. It's obvious. It's clear. When you wake up in the morning, you should get out of your pajamas. That means you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth. Whoever does breakfast is doing breakfast. We have a small dog, and so they know that there's one. It's owned by one of the children, the 11-year-old. So she knows that she's got to take care of the dog, let it go out, make sure to feed it. So we have chores that are really structured. So when I come back in the evening, my role is just to check, how did you clean today? Did you clean well? So tomorrow, can you do this better? Yeah, I will not tell you lies that sometimes it is fighting time. Like we've had some serious fights where, we have taken TV, phones, and everything away just to try and make a point clear. So parents need to know that they are boss. They're the boss. The kids need to know who is the boss. For as long as you're a steward, you must take on the role of guiding the children. They must know they're getting rules from you, and there are rules and regulations in every household. So making sure that you live by those rules and regulations.
Interesting stuff here. You can't imagine there are times to fight, there are times to laugh, and there are times to do all this kind of stuff. Many parents have raised the house nannies better than they have done for their own children. So you end up teaching the nannies what to do, and your children end up getting messed up. When they grow up and it's time to get married, they're the ones who are saying, you are mistreating me. Yet these are usual stuff. Yes. How do you deal with their choice of friends? Do you entertain, now like for the 14-year-old, do you entertain their friends in your house, the male friends, the female friends? Well, what do you do as far as their choice of friends?
I think my daughter is not the kind who invites people home, because the 11-year-old is one who likes to have sleepovers, visit, all those things. The 12-year-old just never, the 14-year-old just never, ever raises anything about, friends. But I would say that in the event that you had a child who is very social and whose friends are in the vicinity, please make sure that you let them in and then watch them and see what kind of influence are they having on the children. But two, also sit there while they are visiting. Get to know their parents. What do they do? Is your mother a single parent? Do you have a single dad? Are you parented by both your parents? You want to know, because then you want to know what kind of influence they are having on your child. Yeah. So it's really important that you get to know the friends. So when I go to school, I labor to make sure she collects all her friends and that I'm able to see the friends, just find out a few things about them, and I'm watching. Of course, as a parent, a few things can really tell you the kind of friends that she's picking. But the other thing is the friends on the phone. That's the area that is really complicated. And so phone time is really important. I know some parents have bought phones, like really nice phones for their children, but do they have time that is gazetted for phones? And for me, that is very crucial. Housework must be done up to 2 o'clock. No one touches a phone or even turns on the television before 2 o'clock. The phones go off at exactly 7. So it doesn't matter, whatever it is, the phone has to go off. And that's for the 14-year-old. Data is limited, yeah. So you really have got to be very wise because the children are overly exposed. You have to really be, like passwords should not be something that you're encouraging on your children's phones. There are certain apps or social media platforms that they shouldn't join until a certain age. So you really have to set rules knowing that you have an end in mind. But most times we just let the kids, let them loose and let them enjoy every privilege, but you don't know how far or the extent to which the friends are influencing them.
How have these phones influenced their behavior and the so-called technology of today?
Yeah, definitely technology is the biggest problem. I run a program called Teaser Teens, and it's a holiday program, like you mentioned, for 11 to 17-year-old girls. And one of the biggest issues that we realize is that kids are learning a lot on phone. And when I say a lot, parents, I just want to even scare you to the point that there are sites that teach children how to commit suicide, how best to commit suicide, how to self-harm, and to encourage them that self-harming, for example, is helpful. It helps you release stress. So I've had many children, and when I say many, I say it's an alarming situation that most of the kids have learned to self-harm from these gadgets and from their own friends at school because they are learning. They learn this is the nerve to cut, this is how best to, it releases pressure. So, and every other thing that we don't want to talk about, that kids are so exposed to because of phones. So that's why I think that there are certain sites that parents must be really strict about. For example, there is no TikTok on my daughter's phone. 2, there is no Instagram. Why? Because these are places where they are exposed to absolutely everything and everything that you can think of. So she's not on Facebook, so it is just WhatsApp and that's it. So if someone doesn't have a phone, there is no a link. And we really have got to be very serious about this. Because these are children, it's just their hearts are still being molded, and whatever it is they're feeding themselves with is what comes out of the heart. The Bible is clear, out of the abundance of the heart, so the mouth speaks. And so we behave. Yeah? So the 21st century parent has got to be on the lookout 24/7. The gadgets are not a good idea for the children. And to make it worse, parents have got Wi-Fi in their homes. That means, internet is unlimited. The kids download whatever it is, and they have their own rooms, and they even have those don't disturb signs on the on the doors, and parents actually allowing that. But you have no idea what the kids are actually exposed to. Sometimes it's Satanism, sometimes it is gay influence, whatever it is, we need to be on the lookout. So the first thing I do, set rules is basically say, you're a child, and it's my responsibility to steward you. My responsibility to make sure that you turn out to be a great adult in the future. And so these are going to be my rules. They're not the rules of any other home, and so don't bring any other home rules and compare them with yours. These are the rules in our house. Yeah? And every home has got rules that are set by parents and nobody else. And so when those rules are set, they must be adhered to. So sometimes we seem to be really tough as parents, but to parent a teenager, you really have got to be firm. And that's what I think, would really help.
It's not a simple job.
It's not a simple job.
You can see and hear from somebody who has been through this explaining our experience with these teens. It is not a simple thing to do. It is not a simple thing to do. And then even on WhatsApp, there are those short clips of TikTok.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stop with Facebook and TikTok. It cuts across. It goes beyond that we can even imagine.
Yeah.
But those are young people, and we have to make sure they grow up as responsible citizens. If we don't, then we have a messed up generation that we don't want. and then you can't be there forever to make sure you pamper these kids. What do you have to say about parents who have pampered their children?
I think pampering is really relative. Pampering is really relative, but most of all, make sure that your children are not incapacitated. This is just one of the things that I always sit with my kids and talk. I say, I don't want you to go somewhere and you're the person who can't help out in the kitchen. I don't want you to go somewhere and you're the child they don't want to stay with because you leave your plates lying everywhere, you do it, you know. So I think they must understand what is between, the difference between pampering and spoiling. Yeah? There is pampering where you actually go out and say, this is a treat. It shouldn't be an entitlement. And that's why we're raising a generation that's very entitled. Yeah? You must know, today I'm taking you for manicure. And I do that for my 14-year-old. And, we're going to do our nails, and this is what we're going to do. But these nails we are doing, it's a treat. It's not an entitlement. It's because you have worked so hard, you've taken good care of your siblings and all that. So they must know that they are not entitled. So when you're pampering them, they should know the difference between spoiling them. Like, how you just let them be. What do you want? Mom, I need 50,000 to go where? To Pioneer Mall. Oh, sorry, Pioneer Mall doesn't exist anymore. Sorry, that's for our generation. Akasha Mall, yeah? To spend time with my friends. My 14-year-old has asked to go and spend time with her friends because at school they have names for kids who don't go out during the holiday. And she's one of those kids like who are called whatever name it is to say that, they don't go out to hang out with their friends. So I asked, number one, you're going to hang, what are you going to do while you're hanging out? So we're just going to sit around and do what? So it's to really be firm about what you think is relevant and beneficial and what is the fad that's not necessarily beneficial. So most parents give in to everything. I want to go out with my friends to the cinema. How much money do you need? The driver will drop you. So as long as you have money, you're just spoiling your kids. The question is, are you actually monitoring to see what they do when they go away? These are kids. They're kids. So for as long as a child is not yet 18 or even 23 when they're leaving your house or finishing university, they're under your care. There are certain rules and regulations. There are certain limits. You must set boundaries at all times to make sure that the children are, living within a certain boundary and that you can be able to rule them, or should I say, you can be able to govern them well, knowing that these are the set boundaries. And maybe just to add is to make sure that you keep your boundaries. If you have set a boundary, ensure that you keep it. Let it not be blood, let it not be gray, let it not be a gray area. Let it be black and white. We don't go for sleepovers. We only go for sleepovers to so-and-so's home and so-and-so's home. Other than that, we don't go for sleepovers. So they ask, Mommy, why? Because I'm not going to be there to see what you're going to do or what is going to happen to you while you're away. So because God has given to you to me as a steward, I need to be able to take good care of you. So they've come to appreciate that some of these things are non-negotiables. So as parents, we need to set rules, and stick and stand by it.
Interesting stuff here. There are things that are negotiable and unnegotiable. It is important to have a break before you break down. So we also went for a short break, and now we are back on air. And like I said earlier, we're dealing with parenting teenagers. So if you have one in your house, you anticipate having one, this is the right show for you to listen to. Very rare to find on any other stations, but here on Family TV, we definitely have to bring you stuff that will enrich your life and your family as well. So like I said earlier, we'll be dealing with the hormones, the changes. That is the time when the girls start getting the and then the lot of stuff. So Pamela will be breaking down those stuff for us so that some of us who have a 1.5, 1 year and 5 month boy and maybe a girl soon, we definitely should be knowing what to do while raising these people. So Pamela, looking at how do you deal with those hormonal changes?
I think the first thing to do is to really demystify this hormonal change thing. So once the children are, like even if the child is 3 years, you need to start talking about what they are going to expect. Yeah, we begin by having real sex talks at that point, and they should be age related. So what you need to do is that you need to demystify and make it seem like it's really part of life. It's not something that is, how kids get into their periods and they're hiding. They don't want to tell anybody because they feel it's filthy. You have something going on in your body and you're not used to it, but you can't tell your parent about it. So one of the things we did with my daughters is that from when they were 3 years, we started having sex education. Yeah, and sex education means this is your private part, it only belongs to you. Then as they get older, you start talking about changes, and we would laugh about it because then the older one, of course, got into puberty earlier than the younger one, and the younger one would laugh. Now it is her turn, and we're actually literally laughing about the changes, but making sure that we are actually talking about them as they are. For example, when I talk about crushes, I say, you know what, when you have a crush, that's very normal. It's very normal. It's a beautiful thing. God created it in such a way that it actually does happen to all of us. And if you're not having crushes, then you actually have a problem. So we talk about crushes, and then they'll talk about coupling. This is what they call coupling, getting a boyfriend. In school, they call it coupling. So, they will ask, Mommy, at what age are you allowing us to couple? And we talk about it, like what do we need? What is the essence of this whole thing? Where is it headed? But we must be able to talk about each and every one of them. When you talk about breasts, if the breasts are coming out, they tend to hurt. And so are the children confident enough to sit with you and talk about their breasts? And say, Mommy, my breasts are hurting. And then you say, yeah, they're actually now growing. So avoid things that bang here and bang there. And now the rough games, you've got to stop playing the rough games. Otherwise, you're going to be hurting your breasts all the time. In the meantime, we're talking about puberty and hair growing. And my children have shavers, regardless of whether they have the hair or not. But it's to demystify and say, this shaver is here and it's to be used. And it is okay because all of us have them. Yeah? And laugh about them. Because we often laugh about the hair and say, so this is shaving week. You crack a joke and say, guys, this week is shaving week. So here is yours, here is yours, here is mine. Let's all go and shave. Yeah? And so it's to just demystify it. Don't make it seem like it's a private, quiet affair where even when the periods come, she's wondering who actually needs to know this. Parents, make sure that you're the source of the first information that children have about growing up. And that means that they should be free enough to say, Mom, I think I've gotten into my periods. And then you know what to do. But talk about the parts, pull them out, talk about them. And for the boys, talk about wet dreams. Demystify it. Let them not wake up and feel like they're sinners because they woke up and they had a wet dream. Boys wake up when they have an erection. Can you talk about it? And talk about it very, honestly. And even tell them it's a good thing. Yeah, if you're a mother and your son is hiding, tell him, no, actually I'm happy that you have an erection in the morning. That means that you are normal, and this is very normal. So that's something to thank God for. Demystify it. Laugh about it in the home. My mom used to crack jokes, and she would always tell the boys, we are tired of sitting in your urine on the seat. So she would demonstrate to them, and the boys would hide literally. And she'd say, no, if you're going to make us sit in the urine, I might as well teach you exactly what to do. You're not buying the toilet paper. When you finish this shaking business, you must stop. You must be able to use the tissue. That's why the tissue is there. Or lift up the lid and whatever. So it's to talk about them and demystify. The boys must be able to engage in that discussion with the girls as well. And say, girls, I know that you get periods. How does that feel? So when we were younger, the boys and the girls, we used to sit in our little groups. We were a big family. My parents had 5 biological children, but they were raising 13 children. And there were more boys than the girls. And so the boys would go into the room and now start talking about periods and, what is it like? Let's ask somebody. And so I remember my sister coming with a pad into the room with a panty and demonstrating. This is what we do. You put it like this, and then you wear it like this. And the blood, then they say, does the blood come toin, or does it come shwa, And the boys are actually asking. They want to know. So how are you preparing them to also embrace the fact that periods and the things that women go through are very normal, and you're actually part of it. That's why you want the men to get to a point where they can actually count the safe days for their wives because they have embraced it as a way of life. Yeah. And so I think it's really important to talk about these things. Don't leave them to chance, don't leave them to social media, don't leave them to other kids. Be the first to talk to your children, and as early as you can. So keep adding a little more, just keep adding a little bit more. From like I said, from 2 years we started talking about sex by making sure no one touches your private part, it's yours. You pour water for the girl to wash for herself so that she knows that this is mine. And then you start talking about, you see why it's a private part is that it also keeps evolving and changing as you grow older. So you say at some point you're going to have hair, and they're like, ew, but the time comes they're actually ready for it. So demystify this whole discussion. Let it be something to talk about in the home. Yeah.
This has a lot to do with freedom with the parent.
Yes.
Some of our parents are more or less lions. The moment the children see the parent, under the bed is the best safe place. How do you build this freedom with your young girls?
I think one thing I would say is that I have made a choice to be authentic with my children. I tell them my own experiences, and we laugh about them, and they even laugh. Yeah? Laugh about them. These are things that I went through. This is what we did. Some of the silliest things I have done. And so they also are aware that there's nothing new that they can do that I probably have not gone through. Yeah, they always say mommy's eyes are everywhere. They can see us from everywhere, because once I see something, a sign, I somehow can almost tell what they're going through. You're hiding something. What are you hiding? So I must say that also being a single parent can be tough, because there are really tough moments where you must be the lion. You must be the lion gathering your cubs fearlessly. And then you must also have a good balance where you have times when you sit down and laugh about things. So it's got to be a good balance. But above all, I keep telling them, just know the lines are always open. There is nothing you will ever go through that we cannot talk about. And the reason why I'm here as a parent is to make sure that I'm there for you at all times. So let's build the relationships. Let's keep the lines open. We have these things. If you get pregnant, you get out of my house. There are all those things that we put as ultimatums. Those things stop kids from being free because they know the repercussions. But they should also know that in case they're in a very tight situation, the door is open. The door is open. They will always be your children. Yeah.
Now, amidst all this, there are some things that definitely will cause self-destruction for the young people. What are some of these things that have caused self-destruction for the little ones?
Self-destruction like what?
Like before you notice somebody is among the bad peers, before you notice somebody is making an attempt to commit suicide because they had a rough time with mommy, they had a rough time with daddy. Someone is getting into drugs and alcoholism at that tender age. What are some of those things that push towards that bit of self-destruction?
Number one, I want to make it clear that we are in very difficult times. Parents are very stressed, but children are equally stressed. And when your child says, I'm stressed, don't rush it and say, but for you, what stress can you possibly have? I mean, you don't pay bills, you don't do what? Kids are stressed. So one thing we need to know is that, first of all, every child is a good candidate. There's no one who can look into someone else's home and say, don't be like so-and-so's kids, because your children are very good candidates for this. So let's first get that clear. Children are good candidates. Every child is a candidate for self-destruction. So because of that, we have got to have constant discussions just to release stress. Like, what is stressing you? What stresses you more? What subject don't you like? Which subject would you like to drop? Do you have friends who are bothering you? Do you want me to talk to anybody at school? You really have got to show concern, because the highest, and I'm telling you from the programs that we hold, the kids who are stressed the most and who are attempting to commit suicide are mostly bullied at school. So can the parents also be aware that when a child says, I don't like the school, can you go an extra mile to find out why? One, some of them are actually defiled by adults in the schools where they are, and they just can't tell you that the teacher so-and-so is molesting me. And if a child tells you, I don't like the school, please, parent, listen. give it give it a chance, listen and hear what the children are going through. I'm telling you, the children are equally as stressed as we are. And mental health challenges are very common this day. So you find that kids, because they feel like they don't have enough money, sometimes not because you're not giving them enough, but they feel like they need more, they end up into these groups like the gay communities that are luring them with money. You will also hear that some of the kids are joining bullies at school because it is smart to be a bully. Yeah? But then what about the person you're bullying? Those are things you need to talk about. And so whatever it is that self-destruction today, it's usually a sign of stress and most times mental health challenges. So children won't just find themselves in bad company unless they're looking for something. It's the kids that feel that they're not good enough that end up most times falling into bad company. So you need to always affirm your children. And that's one thing that parents need to really take on seriously. Affirming your child, telling her that she's created for greatness or he's created for greatness. He's going to be a world changer. I am banking on you to really get me to the top. The world is waiting for your true manifestation and we are waiting on you because there's only one you. You really have to keep speaking to encourage the children. They get into self-destruction because they are looking for something. They're looking for something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now away from the parenting business. Evolving Women deals with empowering women. How are you empowering women in such times when things are hard and not moving?
We're aware that times are tough in every way, economically, socially, mentally, and so what we do is we ensure that the women are able to forge a way or find a way out. Like we do more of coach the women to find a way out of a situation where they are stuck so they can live life to their full potential. So one of the things that we do is take them through a 10-week self-discovery journey called EZA. And EZA is basically a journey where we are finding out what is my identity. How was I designed and what was God's plan when he was designing me? And then we get into how deep can I go as an individual in terms of issues like woundedness, issues like pain and the suffering that you've been through, sorting out and warding out of it, because sometimes you find someone is still making decisions based on their their experience as 2-year-olds. So we're basically taking them down their life map and discovering where most of the things went wrong and try to rectify it. And most times rectifying it doesn't mean that we wash it away. It's to basically help them to face it and deal with it. Why are you not enjoying your marriage? They get to a point where they realize, my father walked away from my mother when I was 3 years old, and I've lived with that phobia that my own husband is going to walk away anytime. And so you're not giving 100, and so they get to the point where they go back down and discover where it went wrong. And in so doing, of course, at the end of the day, they are able to, deal with whatever it is. Most times we find that, you will tell them, go and ask for forgiveness, or go and forgive where you need to forgive, or deal with it and get to know that this is a way of life. Then finally, the other segment that we deal with in the 10 weeks, we also deal with what's that significant role that you can play as an individual in this world. That is your purpose, your mission, to be able to create the change that you want to see. And so it's to say that you are created for greatness. Go out and change the world. So we are basically trying to make sure that the women, but also the children, are able to show up for themselves, stand up for themselves, speak up for themselves, but also speak up, show up, and stand up for the, for the world. Like wherever you see vulnerability, or people who are vulnerable, wherever you see communities that need your help, are you actually showing up, or you're, turning a deaf ear to what you're saying in society?
Interesting stuff right here. We have about 12 minutes here left. You are an author of a very interesting book with a very interesting title. Could you make mention of a few facts about this book and then where we can get the book?
Okay, so Beaten Not Crushed is #1 last year. It won the African Christian Award, Best Book in the Women's category. It is a story of my life. It's a story detailing my life from a really authentic point, where you're talking about, a childhood that is really, I lived a childhood that was really, I was really protected, like really protected. And then I come out into the world and I have to face it, and I don't have everything that I need to be able to handle adversity, which is the case with everybody really, with the majority of people, especially in the African context, where they throw you out there and you're not equipped. We don't talk about the adversity quotient. We're always talking about EQ, IQ. We don't talk about adversity. So it's detailing how I was able to come out of adversity after going through a series of adversities in adulting. So it's bringing out issues that women commonly go through, and how society embraces them, and finally how you're able to stand. So some of the things that I write about is also steps to get out of adversity. Are you going through grief? What are the steps that you need to take to get out of grief? Are you going through childlessness? What are the steps that you need to take to be able to stand tall in an environment that actually doesn't give you that? If you're a woman who's gone through divorce, or you've gone through a number of issues in your marriage, how can you be able to come out of it standing tall, because society sees a woman whose marriage has failed as somebody who has failed in life? How can you make good use of this? But at the end of the day, the book also helps you to make it count. How do you make your life count, tough as it may be?
Very interesting. Where do we get that book?
One, you can get it at the African Books. It's an africanbooks.com. It's a Ugandan site online. You can also, you can call me. I could deliver a book. It was in Aristoc, but not there anymore. We're just looking for bookshops that can be able to, especially like Christian bookshops, but also the African Christian Award website has got it, and Amazon, of course. If you would like to find it on Amazon. Yeah.
So it's at about how much?
It's 30,000 shillings, 30 to 35.
30 to 35.
Where you find it is.
All right. So it's a book worth reading. It's a book that you definitely want to look out for, so that you can learn a few things here and there to help you parent those little ones here and there. Pamela, it has been good having you here.
Yes, thank you.
Do you mind giving us your parting shots? First on parenting teenagers, maybe on something we've not touched, or something of that kind, and then we can sign out for today.
Yeah, maybe something we've touched, but I just want to re-emphasize that teenagers are a clean slate. They are as a clean slate as the younger ones. So whatever you write onto their hearts is what they will run away with. The Bible says, train up a child in the way that they should go, that when they grow up, they will not depart from it. Meaning that you are investing into them, and one day you will see the fruits of your hard work. And then two is just to tell the parents that the journey is not something you can control. You might do your best and your child makes a decision to go the other direction. I just want to say that the power of a praying parent is one who knows that I am praying, and my prayer is not a dustbin prayer. At some point X, my child will come back. So most times you find parents have fallen apart, also experiencing their own mental health challenges because of the children going astray. But I would like to say that the children are under attack. This generation is under attack. So our job as parents is to really give our best spiritually, to give our best in terms of all the support that they need, but to also know that the Lord is in control. These children are ours to steward and not to own. That means the owner already knows what plans he has for these children. Whichever way they go, they will always come back to the straight and narrow if you're a praying parent.
Interesting things. You need to pray for your children so that the future can be brighter for them. For today, why don't you allow us sign out from here? God bless you. God bless Uganda. From I and the team, it's a good night. See you again next Tuesday. Thank you so much, Pamela, for coming.
Thank you, too.
I'm sure you'll be coming back here soon.
Yes.
When the time is very well.
Yes.
God bless you.
Bless you too.
See you next Tuesday.